everyone. So we are nearing the end of our school year, and I wanted to take the opportunity to start reviewing some of the curriculums that we use this year. Now, when I review a curriculum, I like it to be something that we have genuinely used the entire year or like have used for a big chunk of it. Because I want to give you a really fair review, not just something that I've glanced over, but something that we have actually implemented in our homeschool. So the first one that I'm going to review for you guys today is going to be A Gentle Feast. So A Gentle Feast was kind of the spine of our year. Apart from language arts and math, it is basically what encompassed everything for our year, from history to science, to the way we learned Spanish, nature study. All of that was incorporated into A Gentle Feast. So I'm really excited to kind of show you what it is that A Gentle Feast has to offer. So one of the first questions that someone usually asks is it worth buying the printed material? So my answer to you is yes. So this is their printed material here. They have a morning time packet, which is this one, and then they have basically the feast, the main spread of what your child is going to learn. As far as is it worth buying the printed version, the morning time packet for sure. So the morning time packet offers all of the hymns that are printed, all of the recitation, all of the poetry, because you study a poet each term. And it also shows you all of the artist study as well. So it's all printed for you, and it's right at the tip of your fingers. So that is why I really loved this. So every morning when we ate breakfast, we would sit down, I would pull this out, as well as the other resources like Then Sings My Soul. This is what we used to study our hymns, and I would just hold this and read and sing it with the kids every morning. And so I really loved having this on hand because I'm a very open and go type of homeschooler. I genuinely don't look at things until the week before for the most part. And so I liked having everything for the most part set up for me. Now, one thing that I want to caution with picking up something like this is you do not have to stick to everything that this says that you have to do. That is the beauty of homeschooling. If you pick something up and you're like, you know what, this book is just not working for us, we need to find something different, then do. That is the beauty of homeschooling, that you are able to substitute and make changes. You never want to be a slave to your curriculum. You are the master of what you are learning. And so this is just a guide. It's to guide you and to just give you kind of like a jumping board, like a platform to spring from and give you ideas. And we genuinely just loved this. So for our morning time, like I said, we'd sit down, have breakfast, and I love that everything is already looped for you. So each term, you're going to study a poet, you're going to study an artist, you're going to study a composer, and that is looped each week. So each week you will read a poem by your poet, and then every other week you're either going to do a picture study or a composer study. And so in their online resources, which they have and which is really easy and beautifully set up, in the online resources they have links to all of the music. So all you have to do is just click a link and it comes up and it has a YouTube video for you to sit and watch, and that is your composer study for that day. So everything is just very easy and it's at the tip of your fingers. So with our morning time, I opted to print out morning time, and we use menus. So I have this for my son printed out. I'm sorry if there is a reflection on that. But A Gentle Feast used the ESV, I believe, and we memorize in KJV. That's what our church uses. And so I just printed out our own scripture memorization. So this term my son is memorizing Psalm 34. And so that is what I had printed out there. But then in all of the online resources, they have all of the poetry printed out. So for this term that we're in term 3 and we're just wrapping up, there were 3 poems that he is working on for his recitation. So I would just print those out and put them in here. And sometimes I would put the hymn that we were learning in there or just any other resources. But those are all available online for your child. This is actually one of the printouts for the hymn that we were studying for the month, or for part of the month. So like I said, the online resources are really great because they're all right there, and they're all just clickable links that you're able to go pull up, print off what you need. They have all of the student pages, which is what I just showed you with all the poetry, that are very simply done, but just a beautiful resource. And it's nice that it is done for you. So I really enjoyed that about it. I am going to jump into the feast, because this is what really drew me to A Gentle Feast. So I remember last year I was hemming and hawing about what curriculum I wanted to use with my son for this upcoming year. And I remember sitting down with my husband, and I talked through with him, and I said, okay, so there's this fairly new curriculum called A Gentle Feast. It has a 4-year history cycle. So there are 4 different cycles that each cover a span of history. And then in 4 years, he'll loop back and he will re-go through that, but at a more advanced stage or a more advanced level. And I love that because it's exactly how Charlotte Mason has it set up, is to do a big history loop. And so you're starting with what you know. It's like you know the United States, that would be us. Like, we know the United States, so we're starting with early American history, and we're kind of branching out from there and learning more and more. And then when he cycles back through after those 4 years, now we're going to be adding in some ancient history, and now we're going to add in some European history, and we're just going to be branching out every time it loops. But he's still going to be learning the American history in that loop, but it's just going to be getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's what I really loved about A Gentle Feast, and or the Charlotte Mason philosophy. Let's just put that's Charlotte Mason. So what drew me to A Gentle Feast was one of the things that I find a lot of Charlotte Mason moms struggle with is what happens when you add in more children. Because so in 3 years, my son's going to be on the 3rd cycle. So does my youngest daughter, does she jump into the 1st cycle, or can she join him? Or am I teaching 2 different time periods? Well, with A Gentle Feast, you don't have to do that. Your youngest can jump into the same cycle as what your older children are doing. They might be in different forms and might be studying a little bit more advanced material, but they're still studying the same time period. So it's really cool because then you're able to still read some of the same books aloud to all of your children, or your oldest could be reading to your youngest and learning and re-solidifying some of the things that they had learned in previous years, because remember, it's been 4 years probably since they've cycled through that. So I just think that it's really cool that A Gentle Feast makes it so that your younger children and your older children are all in the same form without making it some big hassle of trying to put it all together. So that is what drew me to it. And the other curriculum that I was thinking of doing didn't have it set up like that, but it was such a beautifully set out curriculum, and I really wanted to do it because I thought that the other one had some beautiful book choices. But when I mentioned the history rotations to my husband, he was like, I kind of don't see what you're struggling with here. It sounds like A Gentle Feast is the one you should just go for, because we obviously have 2 and now a 3rd that are going to be coming up after our son who's in it. And so he kind of made that an easy decision for me, and just took the decision right out of my hands for me, and just said, just go with A Gentle Feast, and if it doesn't work this year, then you can go and try the other one. But let me assure you that I have already purchased and will be doing A Gentle Feast for next year as well. So we started with their cycle 1 which is, they're formerly known as the green year. So we started with cycle 1, and this one covers for Form 1, which would be, Form 1 is like your grade 1 through 3. It covered American history from 1000 to 1680 AD, which is the exploration, the American colonies, and Native Americans. So that is what we have been studying for the past 30 some weeks that we've been doing this. And we have really enjoyed a lot of the book choices. Speaking of book choices, I do want to address a couple books that this cycle specifically, the green year or cycle 1, I saw a lot of comments saying that some of the books just were kind of difficult for your children, or maybe a little bit drier. And I'm just going to show you what the books were. So some people did not care for the Burgess Animal book or Little Flower Folks. So what I want to say about these is because we were doing Form 1, it's such an early grade that you need to remember that books like these are just setting up the base. Like, your children do not have to retain everything in the Little Flower Folks. They don't have to retain that all. But if they can gain a love and a familiarity with what is in here, you're setting up a love of learning for life. So I really enjoyed this book, and so did my son. A lot of it went over his and my head as I was reading through it, because it went into some detail as far as like the stipules and all that kind of stuff that are parts of the flowers, and just like how to classify them, which seems like a lot. But what it did was it familiarized us with a lot of words that we had never heard before, and it is done in such a fun way because it uses a lot of poetry and a lot of just random stories, and it's kind of like a teacher talking to her class, and she's like, okay, now boys and girls, I told you to bring me some pink flowers today. Oh, Tommy, you brought in blah, 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 blah. And so it's just kind of fun, and it literally took us maybe 5 to 8 minutes to read through. And some of the questions, it was like, okay, we don't really know the answer to this right now, so let's look into it together. Or is this something that we're just going to let go until we have a time to sit down and just really dive into this? It did spark a lot of fun learning. We dissected some flowers that I had that were beginning to die on the table, and so we dissected flowers, and every time it talked about a specific flower, we would look it up in our flower guide for our state to see if it was a wildflower here in our state, and many of them were. I would say probably about 90% of them were. And so we were able to see what they looked like, where they grew, and now we have more of a familiarity with them, and we'll be able to recognize them this summer as we go out and start exploring again. So, and then with Thornton Burgess, the animal book, I really enjoyed this. It's School with Mother Nature, and she's telling you all about these different animals, and she goes into some detail, and so I think maybe it could be, I don't know, my son was never bored with it. He really liked all of the stories in there. She did go into a lot of detail with stuff, but once again, this is just supposed to be familiarizing your child with things that are in nature, and so that someday it might spark a familiarity or a love, or when we've actually had it where we'll be reading another story and my son will be like, oh yeah, that's what we were just talking about in the bird or the animal book over there, and so it's already creating a familiarity with terms that he has now heard. So I just wanted to talk about those couple of books because that is something that I did hear online from a few different people, was just that they really struggled with those books and their kids just weren't liking it. So if you take it as this is just giving us a chance to get familiar with something, I think that's the way to approach those books, because you're creating a love for learning in these younger years. Now, I also said that you are the teacher, so if you are just bored out of your mind or don't like something, you have the option to put it down and to find something different. So during the time that a gentle feast might say you should be reading your animal book, find something different and just do it. Do what suits you and suits your family. I guess I'm trying to think if there was anything that I don't recommend about a gentle feast. I think there is one thing that I wish that they did have, and that would be that I wish that they had kind of like not an alternative book list, maybe a little bit of an alternative book list, or an expanded book list. Because we would get through reading a book and we're like, and we really want to know more about that person or about that time period, and we only read one, maybe two books. So I think it'd be really nice if they had an expanded list. So Julie, if you're watching this, I think that would be a really great suggestion, just to add an expanded book list, just kind of something that you can click and be like, okay, we need a few more books that we want to add in this year for us to read through together. Or if you have already read one because you're jumping in at a later time, so that you can supplement for that reason. So I think that's one thing that I would really appreciate. Something else that they have, we have been using their Spanish because they have Spanish set up for Form 1, and I think they might be out with Form 2 as well. So they do offer a Spanish curriculum, or kind of like I guess a Spanish curriculum for Form 1. And so we've been working through that this year. And we did really enjoy it. It was kind of a simple way to go through it. And then, like I said, because it is his first real year doing something like this, I took it more as an introduction. What was really cool is they have a lot of videos that you can watch. So we learned several Spanish songs to sing, which I thought was a lot of fun. My 1-year-old was singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in Spanish like several months ago, which I thought was just hilarious and so cool. So there are a lot of things about that that was set up that we really enjoyed. I don't know if it's something that we can do long term. I've heard that there are other curriculums, and I might look into them as we get a little bit farther into Spanish. That might work a little bit better for us. But this was definitely a good starting point for us for this year. I believe that is all that I have to talk about with A Gentle Feast at this time. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. You can click the link in the description, and it'll take you to their website if that's something that you're interested in looking into. I really enjoy this curriculum, and like I said, it's because I need a springboard. I need something set up for me that is open and go. Like I said, I do recommend buying the printed out curriculums. Definitely the morning time for sure. I use Trello a lot, and I don't know if you've seen my other video that I have, but I, for the most part, only use Trello. But there were a couple weeks where we just had a crazy weekend, and I didn't get Trello set up for that Monday when we did school. So I was thankful to have the feast printed out as well, so I could just turn there and jump into school Monday morning before I had a chance to get Trello all set up. So I do highly recommend the printouts for those. They do offer, and I probably should mention this, A Gentle Feast does have a language arts curriculum, or like a language arts packet that has all of the copy work and language arts that you would do for the year. I did opt to not go with that. I felt like my son was a little bit beyond what they were already offering. So I just made up his own copy work based on what he was learning for that term. And I would just print it out and have him do it. But I do know that the language arts packet that you can purchase has all the copy work kind of lined up with what your child is learning in his feast or in his morning time. So if you are interested in something like that, be sure to check out the language arts as well. So like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know, and we will be using Cycle 2 next year.